Hey, what's up? Dusk here. We've got the February 6th patch notes. They're kind of long, but kind of not really. Let's take a look. All right, they are pretty lengthy patch notes, but most of the notes listed here are kind of meaningless, so I'm going to skip a lot of it to save time. The other thing I want to bring up is that there are tons and tons of ninja changes, which is really odd because, like, the previous dev stream we got, Wes Keltner vehemently promised they would never do ninja changes, and most of this patch was like ninja changes. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of that because if a ninja change is a good change, like who cares? Pleasant surprise, but it's just weird to like make such a hardcore promise on something like that and then like immediately that becomes untrue. Anyway, let's get started on the patch notes. There are a whole bunch of stuff about victims and family members getting stuck, and then texture and lighting issues and UI stuff. See, the Jack in the Box perk got adjusted. It doesn't kick in until after the animation, which is an iframe, finishes. So Jack in the Box got a buff, which is nice. See, random stuff. A little adjustment there. Somewhere to exploit I've never heard of. UI. Oh, Danny got a buff. He got the slippery perk added to his tree. We're gonna, okay, while we're here, let's just talk about it now. Danny got, I think, from what I understand, a huge ninja nerf. Huge. In the fact that he now, to do an instant tamper, needs to have his knowledge almost completely full. I haven't been able to verify that myself, but there has been talk about that on Reddit. Oh, hello, kitty. And in a match I played versus Danny, there's another change in here that we'll talk about later, and it's going to refer to this example. But he can no longer truly instant tamper. He has to watch his knowledge fill up. And in that time, you can actually hit him and interrupt him. And if Danny gets interrupted, he loses all the knowledge. And that happened in a game. I hit a Danny on a pressure tank, interrupted his tamper, and then that was it. He couldn't insta-tamper anything for the rest of the game. We caught him on the pressure tank multiple times after that, and I saw him trying to get through the mini-game. So I think that that is probably true, that he now requires much, much more knowledge, which puts Danny in a pretty good place. Except that instant, like full knowledge Danny is still scary, but not nearly like what he used to be, right? Like not nearly. So there's some, there's a counterplay window now, basically. All right, carrying on. Let's see. Random stuff. Oh, Poison Claw. Animation. Never mind. Nancy's dress was clipping through her body. That was actually pretty annoying, so that got fixed. Anonymous players got fixed. If you cared about this feature, you know what this is for most people. This doesn't mean anything. Nothing big. Stuck spots. Cosmetic, like weird graphic settings. UI stuff. Visual stuff. Loadouts resetting, pretty minor. Danny tampering the generator. So here was like a weird edge case of like if the generator had already been kicked and Danny wanted to tamper it, he didn't get any benefit. It was just kind of a waste to tamper. And so they fixed that. This isn't going to have any real meaningful impact on the game, though, but there you go. There must have been the wind perk has been fixed. It was not working super great, but it's still not a really great perk, so I don't expect to see it. Kind of a visual, Nancy's house for not being recorded. Okay, so that's just a stat bug. Now here was something that does pop up is the Grandpa's sonar warnings. There was an issue where the Grandpa's sonar warning was not displayed while the critical bleed out warning was active. So you basically, Grandpa was getting ready to roar, but there was another alert that was overriding it, so he just got no warning. And that was catching some players. I've actually seen this one myself. It's super rare because you have two events that need to like line up perfectly, but it did happen from time to time and would catch some players off guard. So that was probably a pretty good fix. inaudible door destruction, just audio glitches stuff. They had some audio occlusion that they had to clean up, which they cleaned up some of the audio occlusion in this patch. Audio occlusion. Oh, Sunny was screaming like a girl when if Cook beat him in a close encounter. I think that's just kind of hilarious to me. I don't know why, but but hey, you'd scream like a girl too if somebody was stabbing you with a broken off broom handle, right? Let's see, camera, weird fit, some rare, weird stuff, weird invisible collision texture. Leland's skill tree, he had like a little like misalignment. So they gave him basically a few more attribute points. This is a super minor buff, but you know, hey, it's a little buff for Leland there. Localization issues, that's language stuff, camera, barbed wire interactions, where it was kind of a little easier to get the barbed wire interrupted, so a little quality of life for Nancy there. Tracker tagged perk was stacking. I don't know if anybody even really noticed that or not, but that's probably a good fix for some situations. Tracker tagged is not like a huge meta perk by any means, so it's pretty pretty weak in my opinion. Let's see, tampering having no effect on opened valves. Again, if something had already been opened and Danny went to tamper it, that kind of made the tamper useless. So that was a pretty meaningful bug to fix. Obviously, like, you know, Danny is pretty crazy. But, you know, you still got to fix the bugs, right? More stuck spots. Choose fight perk was not working. This is something I noticed a long time ago. I think a lot of us did. But now the perk choose fight is working. And boy, grappling was out in full force. And not just because of this, but for some other changes we'll get to. Falling through a map was apparently a thing, super rare. Missing facial expressions. Little things, just visual and audio things. Hiding spot, just stuck in map stuff. UI, audio, lighting, voice lines, falling through maps, stuck spots, something weird that has to do with the coding side that this means nothing to players. I don't know why this is here. Let's see, visual, stuck. Okay, here we go. Fight back and easily tuckered out stamina depletion. When a victim wins a close encounter with the perk Fight Back against a level 3 family member with the perk easily tuckered out at level 1, they stack, and it puts the family member in a state of stamina depletion. This means that family members with easily tuckered out equip was unable to attack for 30 seconds in the Fight Back. Fixed these perks stacking with one another. Now, they fixed them by reworking how easily tuckered out works. They didn't actually, I don't think, change this, but the scenario where the family member was unable to run or attack for 30 seconds, like that scenario is fixed. Think of this like when they fixed the hitchhiker trap at the top of the ladder. Rather than actually fixing that, they just moved the trap back so that you couldn't step into it while coming off of the ladder. This is that same type of fix, but a fix is a fix. I don't care why or how they fixed it. It's still a fix, and so that's good. Let's see. There they are, perked. Okay, yeah, just typos. A nerf to bounce back better. Arguably one of the weaker healing perks in the game. They made it so that if you get incapacitated, bounce back better doesn't really help you bounce back better anymore. It's just meant to be a buff for healing and not a buff for the heal you get from incapacitation, which arguably was the only thing that made bounce back better worth taking. But apparently this was a bug. This seems more like a change, or I don't know. What if it was an actual bug, I guess fix it, but this just seems more like a ninja nerf labeled as a bug for a perk that didn't need it. Am I bleeding? Nobody uses that perk. Immunity charges. Has to do with his perk immunity, which I don't think anybody takes. But now he doesn't get that perk permanently. It now eats through its charges, but But again, I don't think anybody even uses it, so it's not a very good perk. Sound, VoIP, UI stuff. Something about unlocks for a picture. You could just Google yourself anyway. Stuck in wall, gap, incapacitated. It's another stuck falling through the map. Here's one. This is real. This is real. During Johnny's torn apart issue, he is seen using the dull side of the blade in the animation. It has been fixed so that Johnny is seen using the sharp side of the blade. So in this one, it's one where he stabs them in the back and then finishes them off by cutting their throat, and he uses the back of the knife. Right? Well, now, when Johnny reaches his arm over, the knife blade goes boop and flips over in his hand, cuts him with the sharp side. Then when his hand gets here, the knife goes boop and flips back over. It's hilarious, but by God, they fixed it. I was one of the people that complained about this. I was like, this isn't right. Why is this happening? So, but it's funny, but by God, he uses the sharp side of the knife now. It took us a little bit to spot it because it was so subtle. But it kind of cracks me up, and I kind of love it. And we can write this off. We can say that maybe Johnny was in the circus for a stint, and he's got those sleight of hand fingers, and he can kind of like, spin the knife in his hand. I'll take it. I'll stretch that lore, baby. Let's go. This is like my favorite fix in the whole patch, out of the way. All right, fuse box interaction. There was just something where the fuse box was broken. Now you can interact with it. XP, so this is just, UI stuff, audio, language, typos, audio. You could skip the end user agreement, UI, visual. Agitator perk affecting Grandpa's sonar. We fixed an issue where a victim would stab Grandpa with the agitator perk, and the sonar wasn't lasting the length of the scream afterwards. Now, this is actually something I did notice in the game, where sometimes Grandpa would roar, and you'd light up a victim, and then they would like only stay lit for like a second, and you'd be like, "What? Why is this happening? Why did they not highlight for the full duration?" Sometimes you would even miss that people got highlighted. So this was actually a pretty substantial fix. It didn't happen very often, but it did happen, and so that was actually a pretty good fix, right? More stuck textures. Stun lock from Bard. Fixed an issue where a family were permanently stunned from a Leland player if using a shoulder barge while the family was in a close encounter with another victim. That was actually a pretty big fix there, so that was a good one. Reduced cooldown ability description. I think this is just typos stuff. And the Nancy ability can no longer be canceled after activating, so the description now fits the in-game behavior. So a little bit of a nerf to Nancy in a way. This makes her builds where she uses her ability to get a damage buff much worse. So this is a nerf to Nancy, but I guess it was a bug, so fix it. This still leaves like Danny is the undisputed sort of like really powerful DLC character. Poison Claw stacking. I think this is a running problem in the game. There are a lot of things stacking that shouldn't be stacking. It doesn't make sense for some things to stack because of the way the numbers are. For example, Serrated and Rough Cut provide way more damage than every other damage booster in the game. Which normally a damage over time effect is supposed to do more damage, but it has to do the damage over time. So the trade-off is instant damage for damage over time. But the damage over time effect is such a small window. It's like 5 seconds, right? So when you stack that up, that is a lot of damage that is pretty much instant at that point. Later, we'll see where they fixed Rough Cut. They didn't mention a fix for Serrated, but I assume that that's probably coming too. Which means that those perks are now going to underperform, I think. They probably need to make Serrated happen over a 10-second period and then increase the damage. And Rough Cut is the same thing. It needs to be over a longer period but do, more damage. An actual, reason to take that over like a direct damage, for example. The tampering minigame is just an animation. Oh wait, no. This is his thing. Okay, this is a weird thing. This is worded weirdly. Danny's tampering minigame animation. We're going to point this out. I'll show you why. We've fixed an animation error that would make Danny leave the tampering minigame too quickly if he used knowledge to complete the game. Now, if you're a Danny player, this makes no sense to you, right? Because That's what instant tamper is. You tap it, that knowledge starts to fill up, and then you leave because you didn't need to watch it. It fills up on its own. Nothing, family could do nothing to stop you. It was a truly instant tamper. It's just this internal animation had to play out before the pressure tank actually blew, but you were like well on your way, right? So you may look at this and be like, what? Uh, you want to leave, right? But here's the thing. He can't leave anymore. Now Danny has to watch the animation play out. So what this is, I don't know why this is in the patch notes. Basically, while they were working on the patch and coding it, while they were testing it in one of their iterations, the person coding the interaction hadn't finished coding it yet, and so they had like one tester ran into a thing where this happened with the new code, and it's like, oh, the coder hasn't finished setting up Danny's new interactions yet. Oh, well, let's say it's a bug and write it in the patch notes then. So this is a completely fictional, never actually existed bug. Just a tester ran into something before a coder could finish writing all the code for it, or hit the save button too soon, or something. I don't know. The reason I wanted to point this out is because this is fake. This is a fake bug fix. This was never something that was in a live build that the players were dealing with. And it goes along with all this shit that we're having to skip. There's just an absurd amount of fluff in this patch to make it look big, which is bizarre when you take into account the amount of ninja changes that made it into the game that weren't listed that players would have cared so much more about. So Gun's way of writing patch notes is bizarre. They're loaded with meaningless fluff, and some things are just untrue and fake. But then they roll out ninja changes. So patch notes are increasingly becoming something that you really just want to skim. You want to look at the muerto times to figure out if there's, anything significant. You go look at those significant things, and the rest of it's kind of meaningless. I think you just skip patch notes, which is a weird thing to say. UI visual, max stealth noise progression. This one is really weird. It says, we fixed an issue where a victim with maxed out stealth were able to conclude minigames without any progress to the noise meter. Now, at first, this is like, well, who cares if you have maxed out stealth? Even if you do progress the noise meter, it's just not going to max out. You'll still be able to get through things without making noise. But that's not actually, this nerf doesn't do what it says. What they've done is they've increased the amount of noise you make with maximum stealth so that you can't rip through a toolbox at maximum speed and make zero noise, right? Which makes high stealth builds much, much weaker. So again, this is Gun saying, we made a casual game, not a competitive game, but Gun keeps nerfing stealth, buffing rush, and making this like a super, super competitive tournament game, but then refusing to support competitive play, and then trying to dictate to the player how they should play while they do changes that are super counterintuitive to how they are trying to dictate that players are supposed to play their game. It's just really weird, man. It's really weird. Let's see, and players will now always have their noise meters progress. In other words, even with maximum stealth, you'll have to, like max stealth, max proficiency, you'll probably still have to pause a little bit when you're getting a tool out of the toolbox to avoid making noise. Weird change. The reason this is so weird is because now this is just go play Tank Connie now, right? Go play, if you're doing a lockpicker, don't worry about stealth. Just go tank and proficiency and get back to your brute force Russian, Just, it's a weird change to me. And this isn't the first time we've seen this fix. They've done this before in the past where they've nerfed stealth a bit. Now they've nerfed it more. Let's see, highlighting different player issues. This has to do with the report and mute functionality in the menu. This was actually noticeable. Because you'd go to mute somebody and you'd go down to mute, and then it would select the next person in the list, and you'd mute the wrong person by accident or report the wrong person. So this was actually really nice. This is a good change. Tile, I don't know what that is. Hitchhiker trap not triggering. There was a weird edge case where if a hitchhiker put a trap at the bottom of a ladder, you could jump off the ladder and avoid the trap, I suppose. Kind of makes sense thematically. I don't know that needed to be fixed, but there you go. Weird edge case fixed. Stuck spots. Crashing issue. Fix an issue where the match would crash when a victim disconnects in the middle of an execution. I cannot confirm if this fix is actually, because a lot of times they'll fix stuff and it's not fixed. I'm holding my breath on this one to see if this is real or not, because they've listed this fix before. XP with the fuse box, just whatever. Spectator mode UI. Oh yeah, text typos. Weird UI. The tutorial stops playing. Let's see where tutorial would stop playing after watching multiple tutorials in a row. Tutorial and previews. Okay, I can't attest to that, but that's probably a good thing. It's just a video you watch. Keep binding. Pause key? Did they? Oh, the interaction lock. Oh, this is something else. Hold on. this is how much of the patch you have to skip, and sometimes you miss something. So what is it? We fixed an issue where a player pauses at any point during a press and hold interaction. They were unable to cancel the prompt until the interaction is complete, and now you can cancel the prompt at any point after this fix. This is a weird one, but I think this is like if you were pressing and holding to like get a tool out of a toolbox, or no, sorry, this would be more like if you're opening a fuse box, where you have to press and hold to open a fuse box, and you weren't able to cancel out of that if you needed to, and now you can, which is probably good. Let's see, the perk, what doesn't kill you, ignore damage reduction when restoring health, what doesn't kill you will now restore the, oh yeah, this is basically just a nerf to what doesn't kill you, is what that is, which was not a hugely used perk, but I did use it. I kind of like that perk, but this is a nerf to it, and after this nerf, I will basically just use nothing but no sell now, which I was already kind of gravitating toward, but this is a nail in the coffin for that perk, so that one's been kind of nerfed out of the game, in my opinion. Unless you just don't have access to no sell. Stuck spot. Okay, Stunny's ability finally got bug fixed. His ability is actually going to be reliable. No more using your ability and saying, cool, the coast is clear, only to run up a set of stairs and turn a corner to immediately run into family. That has killed me so many times on Sunny. Boy, his power was glitchy, dude. Especially, in multi-level maps where you had like an up and a down stairs. Like, it was terrible. Terrible. So this is actually a significant bug fix. Stuck spot, disconnects, crashes, UI, text, lighting. Okay, this is a weird one. Failed restraint minigame. Basically, if you were still on your restraints when Leatherface came around and he hit you, he could hit you twice before you fell off, and now he only hits you once and you fall off. I guess this might affect, like, brand new players who've never played the game before, who are still in their restraints, but they can't figure out how to get out of the restraints before Leatherface gets to you. But, cool. And then there was some weird interaction where Nancy's barbed wire wasn't turning off Sunny's ability. Okay. Here's actually a big one. Players unlisted from the player list when leaving the match. So, like, if at the end of the match, somebody screamed a bunch of obscenities into the microphone and then immediately left, their name would disappear and you couldn't report them, right? Or if they did something and then left immediately, it'd take their name off the list. You couldn't block them, you couldn't report them, you couldn't do anything. So now that's fixed. You'll be able to interact with their name. That's actually a pretty big deal. Lobby timer resetting. Trolls were loving that. They abused that a lot, so they kind of fixed the lobby timer resetting. The reporting system is actually a real reporting system now. They actually have categories, and several other changes here that kind of like confirmed that, hey, it's actually a report system now. Pretty sure the old report system didn't actually do anything. I think it was just a button that clicked when you pressed it, and that's all. But it looks like it might be an actual reporting system now, so that's good. Lobby timers. Yeah, the lobby timer is now invisible. It's infinite, which I talked about before. This was going to be a catastrophic change if they didn't fix the backfill issues. But in the week leading up to the patch release, they did a ton of back-end changes. We noticed that backfill was getting slightly more reliable, and it looks like backfill, which was the actual culprit, and the trolls in the lobby that would reset the timer, those were the two issues, and those two issues got fixed. And sure, they've removed the lobby timer, but lobbies were firing off all day. Once the lobby got started, they were all, the match had got started within 60 seconds every time. So the removal of the timer did absolutely nothing. But the fix to backfilling and all of the actual issues that aren't listed here, of course. Nothing important was listed in these patch notes, I swear. So the lobbies are fixed, long story short. But not for the reasons listed in the patch notes. Let's see, prompts for entering a lobby with a blocked user have been oh yeah, the buttons. They had all the buttons on the same hotkey. Language. Okay, here we go. Here's some actual big changes. This is the new grapple meta. So basically, when a victim's in a grapple with a family, you can't instantly execute them. Instead, now the victim turns into a bit of a tank, and the other family member that shows up has to mercilessly tear into them to try to manually kill them out. But the damage that the player takes is dramatically reduced, which means that you can go for empowered, which after you complete a struggle and win, heals you for a pretty big chunk of your health, right? So, even Sunny, with, his bare base 15 toughness, can run up to two family members, initiate a struggle, and I don't know if Sunny's got empowered or not, but if he did, he could basically tank dual family members now. Now, of course, Vix have been out in full force trying to abuse this shit, and this is a crate, again, Wes said they only like to do, little incremental changes, but they've done a whole bunch of, massive, crazy changes, and this is definitely one of them. I don't hate this change, though. I play primarily family these days, and I actually don't hate it. I think the instant kills made more thematic sense, but from a gameplay sense, I don't think it made as much sense, right? From a gameplay perspective, you actually want, more options on the table, and you don't want things that happen you're at full health, and so you're like, oh, there's just one family member here. I'm just do a quick struggle to tie him up really quick, just to buy a little time for, maybe if I've got a teammate doing something, I'll just buy him a little extra time. And at the last second, Sissy comes around the corner and you're pretty much broke free from the struggle. You're 99% complete, and then Sissy manages to touch you with their pinky finger and you get nuked from orbit, right? Your entire health pool is immediately destroyed. Weird edge cases like that made the instant kill grapple feel really bad. Super bad for a lot of players. Or if you were just full health, or you were an Ana and you had your ability active and maybe you misclicked, which I've done, and then accidentally went into a struggle only to be insta-killed out of your Ana ability, right? So there was a lot of really feel-bad moments and things that didn't make sense with pacing, excuse me, and stuff like that, right? So I actually like this change. The chip damage might be a little overtuned, though. I think Vix are probably... you shouldn't suddenly, turn into a super tank just because you're grappling with somebody. That seems a little bit overtuned. But other than that, I kind of like it. If it feels extra bad for you as a family player, it's not because of this change. It's because of the state of the game and the rush meta, which the rush meta is out of control, and stealth play, they continue to chip away and nerf away at stealth play, which I already talked about a little bit. Yeah, overall, I actually like this change. It's just overtuned. Chip damage is just overtuned is all. Changed trapping Leatherface exploit. The exploit they explained to everybody how to do before they fixed it is fixed, but I heard somebody say that it's actually easier to trap Leatherface, that they've actually made the exploit worse. I don't do exploits, so I can't confirm. I don't know. And I typically never get into a position where this exploit can be used against me, and now that's such a habit that I was just never in a situation for this exploit to affect me. So I cannot confirm if this was fixed, but I've heard they made it worse. You'll have to let me know in the comments if that's actually true. Game credits, they just want to advertise that they actually have a Q&A department. And here's the thing. I think they tried to make it like that they were outdated, which kind of confirmed that they did not have a QA department. And now they do. But with the amount of ninja changes in the patch and the fact that most of these fixes were actually fixes. In previous patches, there will often be a large number of fixes that weren't actually fixed because they weren't properly testing them, right? But I can attest that this patch did feel better from a QA tested perspective, so props to Gun for getting a QA department, and I think that that is noticeable for the most part. Yay, welcome change, right? The instant study nerf. This is the big nerf I talked about earlier, and I said I'd get back to, and here it is. Let's see, we changed Danny's level 3 instant study. Not instant tamper, but instant study. Danny cannot tamper any item that he's also studied, which is kind of a big deal. Let's see, the button prompt has been updated accordingly to reflect the change, and the ability tree has been updated with the description. Okay, never mind. This isn't actually like the full thing. This is just the study. I thought he was going to talk about the tamper in here, but he didn't. So basically, yeah, you cannot study the thing you're going to tamper, which does kind of curb the crazy, like, 60-second brute force rush Danny play, because you can't inspect the thing you're going to tamper. Also, they did some balancing with study. Just in case they don't actually mention this, they've made it where some things give you less knowledge, but other things give you more, which is a buff to Danny because knowledge is more accessible across the map. But again, if some of the stories on Reddit are true, they've also ninja nerfed Danny where the raw amount of knowledge required is much higher. So basically, Danny gets one shot to do an instant tamper, and then after, if family interrupts him, that's it. Danny's kind of dead in the water. So Danny is in a much better spot if that is true. Poison Claw duration got nerfed. Mainly it was the bug fix that made this perk strong. I don't think this perk is all that strong now that the bug fix is gone, because it was just stacking too much. Back end stuff. Choose Flight was basically nerfed out of the game, in my opinion. Jump Start does the exact same thing as Choose Flight, except instead of having a single charge, it lasts... What do you want, kitty cat? Well, if you didn't want to be picked up, quit fucking booping me with your paw. Huh? So yeah, this is identical. Basically, this fills 100% of your stamina. Jumpstart reduces your stamina consumption by 50%, which means that you're going to get twice as much stamina. So it is a free stamina bar. But Jumpstart is, that's all game long. It's a permanent effect. This is once. So if you have access to Jumpstart, do Jumpstart over Choose Flight. It is just better. If you don't have access to anything else, then, this is still something. I imagine they'll probably nerf Jumpstart to make this more valuable in the future. Yeah. Bomb Squad, a nerf to Bomb Squad, which was definitely needed. Bomb Squad was probably way overtuned. And for the most part, you really didn't use Bomb Squad a ton, honestly. You really wanted to save it for kind of clutch moments, and if you had it in those clutch moments, it's good enough. Good to go. So, yeah, there you go. Easily Tuckered Out. Easily Tuckered Out. This is a buff. I use Easily Tuckered Out, although I spec'd away from it today for not anything related to the patch, but more of a well, actually, kind of related to the patch. I'll talk about that later, I guess. But yeah, Easily Tuckered Out. You don't. It doesn't reduce your stamina cost as much, but your stamina regeneration starts immediately now, and it's only the rate of regeneration that's slower. So what I noticed is that I was getting my stamina back a lot sooner, and overall it felt like faster. I was up, like I could just wait till I got to half my stamina bar, and then I would just go back into attack. And but to adjust that, I also took Johnny and went with like max stamina to offset it a little bit. So if you like to run max stamina Johnny, this is a nice buff to that Johnny. But Vix are probably happy that it's a max stamina. Whoops. A max stamina Johnny and not a max savagery Johnny, right? So I think everybody's probably happy about that. Confusing Mechanic got tuned. I'm not sure if anybody's using this ability, but there you go. Some good buffs to Confusing Mechanic. The big thing is it's going to affect the fuse box, which means if everybody doesn't escape on the first fuse box usage, you can now make the fuse box way harder to reactivate, which is a big deal, in my opinion. Leatherface destruction animation sped up. He's way faster. He's like twice as fast at destroying barricades now. Very noticeable. Rough Cut got a nerf because it's no longer stacking. Honestly, I think this is probably where it should be, but I do think they need to probably buff base Rough Cut to offset this nerf a little bit. But not much. Like, Rough Cut was doing too much damage. 3 light attacks would put, like, 21 damage, extra damage on somebody. That's kind of insane. That's an insane number. Let's see, tuned. Oh, yeah, noise, just FX stuff. Instant Start Leatherface got a significant buff as well. So 2 major buffs for Leatherface, and they were noticeable. If you liked Leatherface, you should probably like him more now. I was struggling on him because his steering feels a little jankier, but I think that's more because I was out of practice on Leatherface. It just seemed like there was way more momentum that made him harder to turn when I needed to turn him. But again, I think that might have been more on my end of things. So overall, big buffs for Leatherface. Thicker blood trails. Noticed this today. We did a lot of tracking today with blood trails. This made running victims down a lot easier. So, like, if you're a stealth player and, you know, your way of getting out of things is to stealth juke and lose family members, that's not really happening anymore. A lot of family are pretty happy with this, I think. I'm not, because it's just another kick in the teeth for stealth players and another, reinforcing the rush meta, which is destroying the game. And it also pushes the game more and more into this super sweaty competitive circle, which personally I like. I like the competitive side of asymmetrical games. So do 90% of asymmetrical players. But Gun keeps claiming that they don't want the game to be competitive and they want it to be casual, and that that's what the game is designed for. It's not what the game is designed for, obviously, because of stuff like this. It is clearly being designed to be super competitive. Just saying, I actually posted a meme on Reddit about a month ago. I put a picture of Wes Keltner holding a fork saying, "I invented the spoon." And then putting up the Texas Chainsaw Massacre logo, and then him saying, I made a casual game." Right? Like, just because you say it out loud doesn't make it true. And as a game developer, you don't get to dictate how people are allowed to play your game. If you make a game that plays away, players get to play the game however they want to, right? So, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it because it just moves the game. I don't know. Like, it's such a weird thing. Here's what I really want. I want them to embrace the fact that they've made a super competitive game. And I want them to go ahead and get engagement tools that will help retain players for the longevity of the game. Things like a ladder system and things like that, like actual engagement tools. The things that literally saved Dead by Daylight was the fact that they had a ladder. Dead by Daylight on launch was a crazy shit show. People falling through maps, teleporting, getting stuck. Like, you think getting stuck on the map was bad in TCM? It was rampant in Dead by Daylight. It was crazy. The game was almost unplayable. It was so busted. But it was, they embraced their competitive player base. They had a ranked ladder, and they had engagement. It was engagement tools. Long form progression for people to, grind for stuff. I think a little too grindy, but whatever, it was there. Crucial engagement tools to support, a long shelf life for a competitive game. So that's what I actually want to see. But as long as they are going to claim that this game is more casual, I don't like the fact that they are kicking casual players in the teeth. But there's more to that, actually, because I think competitive Texas Chainsaw Massacre looks the best when stealth is the preferred go-to. When rush is the preferred go-to, Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a competitive light is boring because every match is kind of the same. You go for the rush and you either make it or you don't, right? And 9 times out of 10, an organized rush squad of victims will pull off the rush. Rush is super powerful. This is just like, it's kind of, everything I'm talking about now is sort of the thing, the shadow that is slowly suffocating this game and why the player base continues to shrink, right? They need to figure out what they actually want to do with TCM and then support the thing that they're trying to make it into, right? I don't think this was necessarily it. At least not with the current stance that they're taking. Anyway, let's see. Noise highlighted during slamming doors. Victims will only be highlighted for a second after slamming a door. I didn't really think this would have much of an effect on the game, honestly, but it did have an effect on the game. Victim players are now using this as a means to counter proximity alarms. If you've got, let's say you're on a gas station and you've picked a lock on a gate, you can just slam the gate and then close it, and the gate will highlight red, and the noise indicator will will wear off by the time you slowly close it. Other family members will assume that it was a family member that opened the gate because it highlighted red and not yellow. So this is like a weird low-key nerf to exterior alarms, especially if family isn't communicating really well, right? So kind of an interesting change, and I don't know what to make of it. Here's Danny's knowledge gain. We've rebalanced the amount of knowledge that Danny gained from lamps and tools. So I talked about that earlier. Less knowledge from some things, more from others. Just more knowledge overall, but a ninja nerf to Danny where he seems to need to collect more knowledge. Inspect speeds nerfed at levels 1 and 2. Nobody cares about that. But no mention on how his ability was retooled with regards to instant tamper, which is why I talked about it earlier, because I felt like that wasn't mentioned, and it's not. So anyway, that's the patch notes. They're a pain in the butt to read. You could probably gloss over them. There's really no point in reading them. Just go check out the Muerto Times and Reddit to figure out what the highlights are and what the ninja changes were. Anyway, that's the patch. Thanks for watching. Anyway, see you in the next one.